Hello and welcome to another episode of Anomalies. I'm one of your hosts, Dan Hall. I show up frequently on this channel, and we have a really great guest tonight that I've been anxious to talk about, Daniel Nichols. And I met Dan kind of on the internet through something that Kristen Cowan did at Only UFO. And I thought, he'd be an interesting guy to have on our podcast. So lo and behold, here's Dan. How you doing, Dan?
Doing well. Thank you so much, Dan, for inviting me to your podcast. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, oh sure. Glad to have you. And there's your buddy.
My kitty, Sophie, she will probably be in and out of this video if that's okay. But
Okay, that's right. I'm allergic to cats, but as long as we're doing this on the internet, I'm totally cool with Sophie. Yeah. Well, tell me about. Here's a place to start. Uh, Tell me about the first time in your life that you realized that you had some abilities that other people did not. How's that for a starting point?
yeah, yeah, sure. We can go back there. Actually, it's been a while since I thought of this memory, but it probably the earliest memory I have was probably about five or so. I was at a church potluck with my family, and I remember turning around and knowing that this child was going to fall. Um, and then 5 seconds later falls and then, bangs his head, starts crying. But I was like really the first time that it was like, that was strange. Um,
So
but
it's like a precognitive kind of thing.
precognition, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool.
And I know that's something that a lot of people probably experience at one point or another in their life. I know a lot of people that are younger, they'll usually have that happen. And you just kind of, you chalk it up to, well, that was maybe in my head or, maybe just not understanding it. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah, I think I even had a precognitive experience, but I've never thought of myself as being having any kind of special ability. My special ability is to seek out interesting people like you and find out what makes them tick and get them on this podcast. So tell me what life is like for you now. How do you use that precognition or any other skills that you discovered in your daily life?
yeah. I wish I could just turn it on and just be able to use it whenever. But that sometimes it comes and goes, being able to sense something happening or, not. Um, but yeah, I think when it comes to the um, psychic abilities in general, or precog, remote viewing, any of those types of forms of being able to interact with uh, the data that's readily available to everyone. I think that for me, how that's really shaped out has been working on moving out of intuition mainly, and that comes with investigating the phenomenon, interacting with others that maybe are been touched by the phenomenon, and kind of using that as uh, a guiding path, so to speak. So, um, but yeah, I think with the day to day, it really comes down to listening to that deep part in yourself and that part that you might get this strange sense about something and you act on it, or someone might you come across somebody in your day to day and you're like, I really feel like I need to talk to that person or share whatever information you got. And then, that profoundly affects that person, right? And so I think it's just listening to that intuitive space. As
So, a question, and maybe I answered my own question here by indicating that I had had a precognitive event at one point in time. Do you think most people have these kind of events and they just kind of maybe downplay them and say, that didn't really happen or whatever?
Yes, especially the fact that with there being more research into like remote viewing or being able to have people, let's say they can summon craft, right? Um, Oftentimes they talk about if there's somebody in the circle that is not really in agreement with what is going on, it can disrupt things. And the phenomenon kind of it seems like it bets on this field, the cohesive field of everyone involved in that event has to be in the same level. So, yeah, I think when it comes to it, so when it comes,
Sophie wants to be on the podcast,
no, she
obviously.
does. Um, that, sorry, I forgot the original, what you had asked.
Well,
Um,
I was talking about, does everybody have these kind of abilities and they don't really necessarily recognize them or maybe don't want to recognize them?
yes. So, sorry, this is where I was going with that. So, um, there can be somebody that, is in a group that's trying to summon, a craft or other things, right? Doing CE5, a lot of people have heard of that before.
Right.
Um, and they can be disruptive with that happening because they're maybe not in full belief with that it's going to happen or, whatever else. And that does seem to affect people or affect people that are involved with the CE5 process, right? May not be as fully effective or just things might not happen at all. Um, and when it comes down to our ability to believe in what we can do, I think that is can be very disruptive at an early age, especially when people maybe have psi ability, might be able to perceive things before they happen, and then their family or friend goes, that's not real. That's not a thing that happens, right? And then that child or that person goes, okay, it's not real, and kind of puts it to the side, right? And so they kind of almost get in their own way. And I think that is a lot of us, especially in the um, modern culture. It's either you are a part of an organization, a religious organization like church that has a certain avenue you go down, or you have to kind of be in this, far flying, you're kind of doing your own thing and disconnected from others, or you're agnostic, and there's kind of like these different rigid areas that people are kind of allowed to go spiritually. And I think that, yeah, handicaps a lot of people. But to go back to your original question, I fully believe that everyone can do it. It's just going to be in different strengths in different areas. Everyone can do push-ups, right? There might be certain people that can do push-ups a little bit better, be just because of genetically how their muscles are, what have you, or obviously life choices and being able to do it on a regular basis helps. But I think that's the same principle with psi ability.
So, in a previous life, I used to be a teacher. I taught sociology at a couple different community colleges here in Washington State. And one of the things that we talked about sometime is something I would refer to as cultural trance. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is we're kind of put into a trance as to reality being a certain way in our life, and something, and we're talking about some of those things happen that they just don't fit that cultural trance. And then you start questioning yourself. And maybe what you really should be questioning is the reality that you've been taught that exists. So, yeah,
hmm
I think I relate to that.
Yeah.
Um,
And I just want to add one more thing as well. Famous person, John Mack, who, I think a lot of people have heard about, right? The
I
psychologist.
certainly know John. As a matter of
A
fact,
lot
we
of-
did a show on someone who knew John Mack. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna want to reference John Mack often, and we actually had somebody also on the show that had worked on a lot of his stuff. Marina Smirnova, she is someone who works in Arizona University, really amazing person, but she works on transhuman experiences. And this is something that John Mack was also kind of spearheading back in this day. And essentially it's the academic take and conversation about these experiences through the academic language, right? And so instead of saying, altered states of consciousness, we say expansive states of consciousness, right? Like getting the language correct, and I've had a really interesting conversation with her about that. But on the academic side, right, they're kind of trying to explore this in the avenues that they can, being part of the institution. And so again, I think when it comes to the experiences that we have as people, it is universal, and these encounters that we have through dreams, um, through there might be contactees or abductees that are taken, right? They can even be taken out of their body, all these different things. This is not necessarily stuff that's really new. It's human experiences that we've probably had for thousands of years. And we are just playing catch up now, being in the modern sense that we think that everything is black and white, which it really isn't.
Yeah, I like that perspective because I belong to something called Opus. You ever heard of that?
I have not.
Organization Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. And I talked to some people who've had some really weird experiences. But as the name of that organization implies, one of my roles is just to listen to them and to not judge them and say, hey, you're crazy or whatever. Just that they've maybe tapped into a bit of reality that many of us have not. Let's talk about remote viewing for a
Yeah.
little bit. Tell me about your remote viewing experiences.
Yeah, so I got into remote viewing around 2014, and then I eventually got out of it around it was 2018, 2019. But I really didn't know what it was. To give background, I had met an individual that got me involved in this group, and they essentially put me through testing. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just going off of intuitive, uh, wanting to help people because they were helping get individuals out of human trafficking, and
Hmm.
wanted to help. And so, uh, yeah, it was quite interesting because they put me through some tests, essentially, hey, this location, what can you get on it? You know, tell them what I got. And then they kind of moved me forward. And so over the course of 4 years, I would locate individuals at locations, trying to help with also remote influencing as well, which we can also get into. Um, and yeah, it was a very strange experience to say the least. And I eventually, when I got out of out of this group, I came across, I believe it was the Seventh Senses book, and that was written by someone who was part of the remote viewing program. And so I read the book. I found out that there was the author had done this thing called remote influencing, where he was able to influence individuals. He actually was tasked with influencing a it was a leader, and it was, I believe he was tasked with the leader of the Soviet Union back when that happened. So that was maybe during the 80s, I want to say. And they were trying to essentially make him change his mind over policies. And according to the book and according to others that have been part of that program, it was relatively successful. But then, kind of took a step away. He took a step away from that. But yeah, that was kind of how I came across remote viewing, um, retroactively. And then came across the writings of Ingo Swann. And
You know,
Ingo
Swan.
Swann really, I really connected with him. And yeah, so through that process of getting out of that, I started expanding my awareness of non-human intelligences and other things. But we can get a little bit more into that if you want to. Do you have any specifics, questions on remote viewing?
Yeah, so a couple things come to mind. One, can you describe, and maybe you can't, maybe it's just something that happens intuitively and you can't describe it. Can you describe the process, the feelings that you go through when you remote view someone or something?
Yes. So, um, oh gosh, I will do my best to describe it.
Sure, and some things are just difficult to
Yeah.
describe.
So what I would do, my process is I would first anchor myself. So I would do meditation, anchor myself internally to a visual. It was a visualization of a place I felt safe, and that was next to water. Water's a big thing for me. So
Hmm.
I visualize it next to the ocean and next to trees, and then I would kind of use this as anchoring. I would stay there for a little bit, and then I would project out, and that would be whatever this whatever I was tasked with, like a location. They would give me a little bit of detail, but not really. Later going into remote viewing, as I was finding out about it, the military fashion is to give a full set of no numbers that have no relation of the target, right? Which I think is a more pure, accurate way of doing it. Yeah, but I would be tasked, and then essentially what I would get is feelings, sometimes a smell, sometimes it was I would get shapes and um, something in the area would be highlighted, and I'd write that down, right? I'd try to get as much information as possible through all the senses, and then relay that to the team, and then they would kind of do whatever they're doing on their side. I was just more so trying to get as much information as possible for them, so they could do what they needed to do. And I'm sure they had other people or other groups that had other intel, right? And that usually is what remote viewers do for the military. They will be part of a team. And so, for example, like in Desert Storm, they utilized remote viewers to um, be able to know where the enemy positions were when they were doing their push during the beginning parts of Desert Storm. So they would remote view areas of what troop locations would be in the next day, and then they would, adjust accordingly. But of course, they were probably going off of satellite data as well, other forms. So then that data just enriches all the others, and then they can make decisions off of that. Um, and this is a misconception too that a lot of people might think remote viewers, right? Oh, they're 100% accurate. That's not the case. Some of the best remote viewers in the world, they maybe can get 70%. And that I think it averages around 60 or so on average for remote viewers that are well trained and well practiced. So the data is going to not be the only thing you go off of. It's going to be more of additive, or you have multiple remote viewers that will be tasked on one object, and then they're going to be getting, whatever they're um, processing, and then you hand that information off to the handler, which will have those other notes of the remote viewers that he's working with as well, cross match patterns, then you get fairly accurate data. And that's how remote viewing in general works.
One thing that you mentioned that uh, gets me thinking about the motives of people that would do remote influencing. Uh, I can see that, and you can reflect on this if you want. I can see that as being used for unethical purposes. You could influence somebody to do something that they wouldn't ordinarily do, or maybe I'm reading too much into that.
As someone who so between remote viewing and remote influencing, I did really well at remote influencing. So I can give you a specific detail on, um,
Yeah, give me an example of where
yeah.
you remotely influence somebody.
So, and I will do my best. I can't go into too much detail, but I can give you,
Sure.
yeah. So there was an instance where I was tasked. There was a few individuals that were trying to get away from bad guys, right? Um, and they were stuck in a building. I was relayed this, and then yeah, so I kind of did my normal thing, projected myself out, went to the location, trying to get details on what's going on. And there was a man, there was an individual there that was part of the bad guys, and he best way I can describe is it felt like there was an opening. Um, and so I went into his mind or his wasn't just mind, it's I'll do my best to explain what the feeling was. I went into who he was, his essence, and was able to pull on what are some of his maybe shortcomings or his frustrations, his insecurities and weaknesses, right? So something in specific popped up where I understood that this individual had issues with the other people on the team. And so then I pretty much pulled on that and was like, hey, you need to be in charge. These guys don't know what they're doing. Um, and you know, yeah, I made that first and foremost in his mind. So I'm not necessarily in, I wasn't necessarily putting in a thought that's completely outside of himself. It was a motivation for him still. So there was a, um, there would be a potential good chance that he actually might act on it, right? 'Cause you're still playing with the person's wants, fears, you know, all those things. So, and again, the interesting part, right? And looking back at remote viewing and when I was doing all that, um, some of the stuff, if I was maybe communicating over text, that could have been maybe bad intel or, you know, they'd be leading me on, right? This specific experience, I didn't say anything. They just said, this is what's happening. And then I text back, all right, cool. It's done. Let me know. That's all I said. 5 minutes later, they start getting encrypted message back. It's exactly what I instructed him to do.
Well,
And that blew me away. That really freaked me out. I was like, I don't know what to do about this. Um, and yeah, so that was an example. And I had, you know, a few others, but that was like the most in my face experience where you know, again, did not communicate any of this to the other team. I just said, here you go. And then they were able to articulate exactly what was going on. That was that was the strangest part. But yeah, with remote influencing, it could be nefarious for sure. I know there was a few remote viewers that they said they were tasked by Men in Black, or you know, maybe it was just Black Ops groups that they were saying, "Hey, can you kill this individual?" And they said, "Absolutely not. I will not, you know, cross it. I will not cross that line." Um, where they're pretty much telling them to push them to, you know, do whatever. So yeah, I think that there's probably, you know, probably groups out there that the military, if they know that there's something could happen like that, psychic assassinations, they would definitely do that. They would definitely invest money into it.
I could see that happening. Now,
Yeah.
no, I don't remember. Did you tell me who you did the remote viewing for, or is that something you can share?
No, unfortunately, I cannot share that.
Okay,
Uh,
okay, that's fine.
yeah. And that comes out of just, I really didn't specifically know the group I was really working with. And I talked to a few other remote viewers or people that are psychics and that have been tried to be pulled into other groups. There was this one individual, she had mentioned that Russians had tried to recruit her, and she was warned about that because it would be once you get in, you can't get out. But I had a conversation with her, and she's like, well, uh, that seems to be a common thing. They'll do this outside recruiting, and then they'll see who's gifted, who isn't, and then they'll just use them for whatever purposes. So, you know, I would be lying if I wasn't fully um I would be lying if I was saying I was 100% confident it was all legitimate of the intel that was being given to me. I think that there was some stuff that probably was bad intel or other things. It was just examples of it that I would get information, I would feel off about it, and then later found out that it was actually someone trying to seed information to us. And again, we hear about this kind of weird smoke and daggers in the intelligence world, right? But I think that's kind of where I was operating. So, but there are specific experiences that I do kind of hold dear to myself of knowing that it did indeed happen and the information was accurate, you know. So,
Dan, why did you want to do this?
why did I want to do this?
Yeah, what motivated you to do what you did for this group?
Hmm. My motivator is to honestly be there for other experiencers. We're talking about specifically like now. Well, I had a I had a certain experience that happened about 2.5 years ago, um, where, uh, and this is kind of middle of the ground of my where I was uh, interacting with non-human intelligences. But this particular experience, um, I felt like there was information deposited in me. They came into my body. They um, channeled, and I've never channeled before. My girlfriend wrote everything down, and after that, I knew that two things. I needed to talk about this, to talk to other experiencers, and the other number two was to make connections with experiencers for whatever was to come. Um, and those were like the main motivators. I love interacting with people. I'm a big people person, you know, I love helping.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was kind of another layer of it. And so that's why we have our podcast, Cosmic Convergence on YouTube. And you know, and we interact and with other experiences as well. That's my motivator, I should say. My other co-hosts, they have their own, but yeah, and this is also why I'm involved with MUFON as well as a field investigator. Uh,
Yeah, I was a MUFON field
yeah,
investigator as well.
being able to you know how that is. You've been able to have those kind of first conversations with people that have seen something or experienced something very strange, and it can be very off-putting for them, right? As it often is with our own experiences. So, you know, that's something that I think has been super rewarding of being able to meet people there and where yes, you're taking the case down, yes, you're doing your investigation work, but you're also um, being someone that they can listen to or someone to listen to their story, right? Where they feel like they're not crazy. And
Do you happen to know Gwen Farrell?
Gwen Farrell,
Yeah.
I don't know.
She,
No.
yeah, she was involved for a long time in MUFON as a field investigator, and she's involved in this Opus program. She kind of coordinates that too. As I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking you might be interested in looking into Opus because you've got an open mind, and that's important. Um, So what else do I want to ask you? Oh, let's get into some of the interactions you had with, we'll call them non-human intelligences. Can you share some of that stuff?
Yeah. So when I got out of remote viewing, I had this kind of impulse to push myself further out of my little world. And when I was when I was involved with remote viewing, this is another aspect that I forgot to mention. I started having past life memories come flooding to me. Uh,
Interesting.
and that was when I was really open. I was doing a lot of work. It was like, hey, this has to happen, or this person might, you know, not make it. Yeah, so it was very much like fire pedal to the metal on being sharp psychically, and I think that pushed other things to open up. So I had memories of past lives. It was,
What were some of your past lives?
yeah, just well, I wasn't anybody important really, first of all, but had a lot of memories of different lives and kind of dying. There was one, the big one that really, I woke up screaming. Actually, my ex-wife was freaking out. She's like, "What's going on?" But I was had a memory of being a boy when I was about, 6 or 7. I'm trying to run through a field. I'm on the ground, trying to get back to. We had a little cottage, and there was a man. I don't know if he was with a group of people there coming, but he had uh, he had stabbed me, so I was on the ground. He had a sword through my gut, and
Hmm.
I'm, my life's leaving, and I look at him, and then I kind of like look at the sky, and then I'm fading, and I'm just going up, right? That was the first memory I had, and the interesting thing too was, I always had for probably the first 10 years of my life, I had a recurring nightmare of a man chasing me, and he would stab me in the stomach. Um, and it was like consistent for a long, long time.
And
So
was that part of a past life?
I think that might have been
Yeah,
tied to that first memory. I think it was trying to maybe flood back or something. I don't know, but I kind of draw conclusions between both of those. So had that past life memory. I've connected with certain people in my life that I've kind of, you have that kind of feeling where you're just like, oh, I've known you forever,
right, right.
that connection. So, um, but yeah, I so I was having my past life memories kind of coming back, kind of realized, oh, this isn't the only life. Awesome. That takes a lot of relief off of me. We don't have to figure everything out this one time, so that was great to, get that kind of little bit of religious weight off my shoulders. And then I started, um, I was researching remote viewing. It was because I was reading that book, and then I came across a video series. It was talking about a Pacific remote viewer who was tasked with going to a alien planet.
Really?
Yeah, and I can send you the link too. I think if it's still on YouTube, it's really interesting. I'll send you the link. But it was essentially about, he was tasked with going to a holy city, a holy planet, like a worship planet almost. Like this, they had this big pyramid. Um, and so anyway, this is a guy who was part of the Stargate program, so he's just randomly tasked with a number, and then he has all these, details come. I heard about that. I heard about that remote viewing. I was like, wow, that's amazing. I really feel like that would be cool to do. So I tried it, tried to project myself out. There, a planet came in mind, put myself there, back in my body instantly, like not allowed to go back.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck? Like, that's not happened before. That's weird. And what I got back psychically was like, you're not ready for this because you're scared and you need to chill out. Like, you need to
Oh,
work
interesting.
on some stuff before you come here. Um, so a few weeks went by, tried to do again, tried to stay a little bit more of like just a neutral state. Whatever happens, happens, project myself there. I was able to get there. And then I remember it was a city planet, beautiful vines coming down from the skyscrapers, like as long as the building, really, really big. And there was a water fountain, big water fountain that was coming like coming out, and there was a lady there, a woman. And so I moved myself there, and she felt like somebody I had known for a long time. I had known a long, long time ago, like a great grandma almost, was the impression that she kind of gave off. Um, and we interacted. And that was kind of the first time I really did that. And so that continued me on my path. I kind of took a little hiatus, but then really got back into things when I started, honestly, when the Grush hearings happened. That was around the time when a lot of stuff, strange stuff started happening, synchronicities. Um, so what really kind of hit that off with having interactions with the phenomenon more of a direct, intense way was um, I knew that I wanted to pull closer to my spiritual part of myself. And, so I remember meditating. Have you ever done any meditations where you ground yourself? Where you kind
You
of,
know, I have to admit I don't do much of that, but I should. I have a feeling like I should be doing that.
yeah, meditation's always good. You can also meditate while you're walking around. I actually do that a lot. I don't like sitting. I get antsy sometimes, so I'll kind of be doing stuff and, trying to mentally put myself in another place. But yeah, I remember grounding myself into the earth, and I pulled on my family roots, and I also pulled on the. It's gonna be weird to say, but I knew that. So my family is originally from Scotland, um, and Ireland, and well, mainly Scotland, but I have Irish in me as well. Uh, I knew that there was an element in our family that were connected to the Fae in some way. I know that some people don't necessarily believe in the fairies or the Fae or the Gendry, or the good
Yeah.
people. But I definitely felt there was uh, something there, and I pulled on that. 3 weeks later, I'm coming to my room because I feel like I need to. I project myself out, and then that was where I was on a craft. And then there was four grays. They turn around at me. Classic look at the table. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be here. I completely forgot. Sorry, guys. Get on the table, completely don't remember anything, right? Very, very classic in that way. Um, so the other thing with that too, that really intensified things was going back to kind of where I came from when I was a kid. I came from Surprise Valley, Northern California. Me and my family helped with on the Native American reservation. We helped with getting people help with drugs, alcohol, stuff like that. We also helped with the church there. We were part of a local Baptist church back in the day. But when we started doing that, we had a lot of strange experiences happen to us. Very negative paranormal, like a lot of stuff happening to me and my.
Can you give me an example of one that might have happened?
Yeah, so I can go through a few. There was one instance where my dad came in. I had a lot of health issues too. A side note on the whole experiencer thing, it's very common, but I almost died multiple times being a kid. And often, it so for some reason it kind of opens a crack in the door for the
I
phenomenon.
bet it would. I bet it would.
But I had a lot of breathing issues when I was a kid. I still do, but it was really prominent when I was younger. So I was my dad could hear me breathing. I was having trouble. Comes with the inhaler, and he sees that I'm struggling to breathe, and he can see like handprints, like if someone was like doing like that on my neck, and I couldn't
Oh,
breathe. So that happened. My dad used to um, he was a mechanic for a long time. He would work on farmers' equipment and everything. And so he was one time working on a truck. It was on neutral ground. My dad's done it a billion times. He's working, changing out a part. And he gets this weird feeling like, oh, I need to get out from under the truck. But he's like, yeah, it's neutral. It's no issues. Like there's no wind. There's, like whatever. Keep going. Then he hears a war cry, like a Native American war cry, like a whoop, and
uh-huh.
the truck starts rolling towards him, and he's like right under the wheel well, so like he's like scurries out from under it, and then the truck just stops. um so he had that happen. The big one that really was more prominent for me and then I'm going to follow up with what happened was when my mom and dad would talk about the experiences. There was one instance where we were had a tree full of owls that would not leave us for days on end, me and my family. And so we had that experience, which was very strange, especially with the type of owls around there. You don't have a bunch of owls that just all fill the tree up and are watching you for days. That's a little weird, right? Um, so uh, to jump back over when I'm realizing the synchronicities, I was reading Communion as well by Whitley
Yeah,
Strieber.
Whitley Strieber's book.
That book is,
Yeah, it's back there on
and
the
then
shelf.
he was describing his first abduction case where he remembered it as an owl in his house, right?
Hmm.
And he went into the, details later of that being potentially a cover memory of sorts. And we also know that the phenomenon likes to mask itself as owls and other forms of animals of kind of being able to not alert us, but they can still kind of be there, right? Um, so I was reading that, and then also came across a friend who was doing Reiki, and she was like, "Hey, well, why don't you guys come down? We'll do a Reiki session." I've never done Reiki before, but I was like, "She's super sweet. Yeah, sure, not why not?" We go down there. She's doing my session, and she's like, "Hey, don't really talk about this a whole lot, but wanted to share with you guys because I trust you. The whole room's full of fairies right now, and they
Hmm.
absolutely love you." And I was like, "Oh, that's sweet." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And then she said, and then there's was a figure watching you the entire time, right where I was. His head went reached the roof and pooped over, and it was a dark figure with an owl face.
Hmm.
So that was strange. That was I'd not talked to her about any of this type of stuff, and so she's picking up on that. And then we had a few other owl synchronicities around that time, and then that was kind of really when things were really popping off. But yeah, that was kind of my initial connection of realizing, oh, this kind of goes back a lot longer, and I've had the sense I've had eyes on me for my whole life.
Hmm.
People though they feel that a lot, so I don't want to fully chalk that up, but going off of my intuition and gut, like I think that's always been the case of them watching me. And so yeah, and so that was interesting being on the craft and having that experience. um I later Oh, sorry, I can keep moving on, or if you want to, do you have any questions about anything?
Well, you got me thinking about somebody that
Hmm.
I've met before. Are you familiar with Katarina Wilson?
Katarina Wilson.
She wrote a book called The Alien Jigsaw, and she is an experiencer, but talked about owls as being a major part of that experience. So that's what I was thinking about when you were talking about your experience.
Yeah, there's also another artist. I can't think of his name right now. We actually had Whitley Strieber on our show back last year, and I gave him a little bit of a detail about the owl, and he's like, "You need to read his book." But yeah, there's a few art authors out there that talk about the owl connection. It was John Mack's second book, so not Abductions, but can't remember the name off the top of my head. I apologize. His second book, he goes into details about a Pacific contactee who was he's part white, and then also he was part Amazonian. So he was the son of a chieftain there. He was involved with the different elders and stuff. And there was one instance where he came and talked to them and said, "Hey, um, do you guys know about the Greys?" Right? I kind of look at him like, "Yeah, of course we know about them. Why?" And he's like, "Well, how do you know when they're like, how do you know when they're like here?" And they're like, "Oh, they'll show up." They had a word for it. They're like, they'll show up as a giant big owl. And they're like, "How do you know?" And they said, "Well, us elders, we can see the energy on them, but also to test it, you just shoot at it. So they're like, if you shoot at it and it's a normal owl, it'll just fall over dead in the tree. But if it's not an owl, the arrow will just go right through it and not phase it at all. And they're like, and we know that that's them. So that's a great example. But I also know that the owl aspect is very much tied to um, important transformations or like events that happen for people as well. So I think the phenomenon kind of manifests in various ways. But yeah, the owl thing is definitely interesting. We actually, speaking of which, I just we did our local MUFON group. We did a CE5 2 weeks ago, and we went and did, yeah. So we were doing that, and I was like in the middle of it. Not a whole lot of things showed up, but I was meditating, and I was out by this like big mountain area. It was really beautiful, but it was all dark. We're trying to see stuff in the sky, meditating. There, about a minute before this happened, feel eyes on us, right? Kind of looking around, like there's something watching us. And then a minute later, start hearing owl hoots.
Ah,
So that was nice. That was nice for them to show up in that way. But yeah. So yeah, the owl thing is very interesting. You know, I know we've met a few experiencers that have had similar things happen with the owls. So yeah.
and I, at the place I live, which is basically a senior citizen apartment complex, um, we have something called Stranger Things that we do. And we did a CE5 experience with that group. And the next day, nothing happened that night, but the next day, one of the members of the group was out walking their dog, happened to look up at the sky, saw a UFO, kind of thing. So I don't know if those two things were related, but they seem like they might be. So
Yeah. I actually have another quick detail too. I had
sure.
so a lot of people at my job know me as a UFO guy. You know, as a lot of us probably people look at us
Yeah,
strange and
I've got
do.
the
Yeah,
same. I'm retired, but I've got the same moniker following me around.
yeah. So I was sharing the owl experience with one of my coworkers, and she's religious. She doesn't really, she likes to stay away from it, but she's interested. So tell her about the experience, and then the next day, like I think it was 9 o'clock in the morning, as soon as she shows up, she's like, "You." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "An owl showed up outside of my window last night. We were talking about it, and it was like dead at night. And then I heard scratching on the side of the house. I flipped out, ran out to my boyfriend. We were freaking out the whole night. So thanks for that." I was like, "Sorry."
So it seems like you planted a seed there.
Yeah, something. But yeah, the owl thing has definitely been interesting.
So what else have you learned about the nature of reality, and what other kind of beings have you been in contact with?
Yeah, so well, I've come to realize that, we are all one with the universe, um, and I've been learning that as I go of trying to integrate that, right? And I think that's a lifelong process. But when it comes to the nature of reality, like um, we are obviously not our bodies. We are these are vessels. These are, the beings can put them on like suits, and we know this. Whitley Strieber talks about the Greys being able to. There's one experience where he said Greys had him in a room, pulls out the drawer. There's a body in there. An orb floats in, goes into the gray body, and he sits up. Right. So I think the beings understand have this understanding of what's the real nature of reality and the universe and consciousness. I think that we're slowly understanding it in the best way as humans can. We're very limited in our ability to perceive things, though. Um, so yeah, that's been kind of the realization for me, and understanding that I'm connected uh, with certain NHI, and this has been something that I have agreed with, before I came down here. There's a deep sense of connection. And so, yeah, the ones I've interacted with has been the grays, the mantids, and um, interaction with light beings. But the way that they can kind of mask themselves, it's hard to articulate what their shapes and like what they actually are. Um, but yeah, when I really started getting into it, I didn't know what they really looked like necessarily. That there was an element of that I just was not aware of, and it was intentional for that. And then as I've kind of gone through my experiences, I've had interactions with the Greys of um, unlocking memories that I've had outside of time and other things through my life. And talking to other experiencers, seems to be a very common thing they do. They have like this time where you get essentially activated or you wake up, and then there's little elements they kind of show you or allow you to. But a lot of the interactions they have with us is going to be stuff that they, right, make us forget, or they're, take us out, put us back in. We don't know the difference. And I'm also on that theory. I'm very much moving down that theory that a lot of people actually do have interactions with them. We just don't remember it.
Right.
I think that there's merit to that. Um, and how do I know I've interacted with the mantis? Well, I had a particular, well, I love praying mantises for one. I'm a big bug guy. My son's a
Okay.
bug guy as well, so it runs in the family. But um, we had a friend was local. Actually, they used to live over there. We're in an apartment, so it was an apartment complex, and uh,
And where are you at?
I'm
Uh,
in Boise,
yeah,
Boise, Idaho.
Boise. Yeah,
Mhm.
which is my hometown. So yeah, interesting
And
connection.
Daniel, where are you located into?
Olympia, Washington. But 27 years ago, I moved here from Boise.
Okay. Oh well, well, it's funny because we kind of hop skip. So I was in Tacoma for about 5, 6 years before.
Connections.
I,
Yeah,
I
connections.
miss Tacoma so much. I miss Washington so much. So next time, if we come down, if you're, it'd be cool to meet you in person.
Yes, it would be. And maybe you could come and talk to our group,
Yeah,
our
that would be
Stranger
great.
Things group. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
yeah, I would love that. Yeah, anytime I'm in Washington, I'll take I'll take it.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, so it was in Boise. I was in this location. A person that we knew. Um, so they want to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to go into specifics of who they were, but um, we got a call from them 11:30 at night. We're just watching a movie. Ironically, we're watching Alien 3. Um,
Maybe that's as it should be.
I thought it was really funny, ironic for them, but the phenomenon can be a little fun on the trickstery comedy aspect sometimes. So, but yeah, so what happened is they call us like, "Hey, I see a craft. I don't know what the F is going on. I don't know what's going on. Please help me." And they're like, "I'm like, hold up, hang on. Oh, we're coming over. Just hang on." So get off the phone, go over. And long story short, they were just chilling with their partner. They step it to take a step out to kind of take a smoke, like to take a smoke break.
Yeah.
And they just start walking down the road. Um, and then they're like, "Oh, am I going to the gas station?" Like they think in their mind. And then they just take a sharp left and keep walking down to the dead end area where there was a field. It's now they just built a building there, but so this individual's out in the field looking around, and then they see a craft that is between the farmhouse area over there and this like barn. So they're seeing the craft like right there.
What kind of craft was it?
The best way that they could describe it was it would have been um, a classic disc.
Okay.
But the details were hard for them to discern because they said they later looked at like I showed them the Go Fast video, and they're like, oh, it had that little like area outside of it that is like the force or like the field, and it kind
Mhm.
of obscures it. So it looked a little different than what it probably was. So um but they had seen this craft, comes over to them, does this light pattern, flies over above our apartment, about 5 feet above our roof and our bedroom. So right now I'm on the third floor. So like we were like, in the other room watching Alien 3. Um, and they said they could see them above our apartment. At this point, they um, had a being show up behind them. They could sense that it was a male with a large head with about 4 feet tall. So, probably a gray. And they knew that they were connected with that one. And then a ring showed up around them of about seven dark figures. And this energy built up and then was projected into them. Um, and it was in an area that had really bad chronic pain. So,
Mm.
I didn't know this until later, but we checked with them, and according to them, they didn't have any more pain in that area. So
Mm.
uh, the circle dissipates, the being disappears, and they say they kind of come to right out of this altered state, see the craft, and go, "Oh my God, I need to tell them," and starts booking it. They'd also walked out of their barefoot, so they had some a piece of glass like in their foot.
Oh
It
gosh.
wasn't too bad. We made sure everything was fine, but so they see the craft. It's above our apartment, and then it just moves like this, and it's just gone.
Mm.
It's just like gone. That's where then they call, and as soon as after they're done with the phone call, they take a step into the house. That's where they said it kind of felt like they stepped out of a bubble, which we know the Oz effect when it comes to craft, right? Heard about the Oz effect at all?
No, tell me about that.
Yeah, so it might be a term that a few people use in the UK, but essentially it's when you have a craft show up or you have the phenomenon, right, is interacting with an individual, they'll be it'll be common, like they'll be like their house will be by a freeway, and when they take a step out and they see the craft, there's no cars going, like it's almost like they're in this adjacent reality almost, like everything around them is quiet and there's in this weird like timelessness space. um so yeah, that's what people like call the Oz effect.
Okay.
Yeah, so we go over there, interact with them. They take us to the location of where they were. So believe me, this has a payoff. Uh, I'm recording everything. I'm getting audio. I'm doing as much as I can investigative work, trying to get as fresh as possible. And then I kid you not, we see a praying mantis fly in between all of us in that location. We were at the exact spot that she was when she was in circle, and this mantis flies off. I hadn't seen a mantis
Mm.
for years, by the way, at that point. So it was just like, ah,
No big deal.
that's not normal,
Yeah.
especially being that night. And yeah, so I've had that happen. We've had a few other things, but I think with the mantis, they like to kind of stay in the background.
And what I'm thinking about is just having come back from Boise here a couple of weeks ago. How many people in Boise at the same time that this was all happening were totally oblivious to that, had no idea that there was anything like this going on at all? And I bet there was a boatload of people who were totally indifferent to that.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
was my girlfriend reminded me actually, I completely forgot about that night. She was like, "Do you remember she's like, there was a police drone flying around that like after that happened." I was like, "There was?" Like, "Oh yeah, remember?" And I was like, I guess like I was but yeah, like apparently there was a drone flying around at the same time, like a big drone, like big, big, big. And I'm like, okay, that sure any other night, but to be like 20 minutes after that event and they're flying drones, that's strange. So yeah,
Seems some kind of coincidence there.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
probably
I don't
watching.
want to keep you much longer. You have other things to do in Boise than talk to me. I've really enjoyed you and your cat. Let me ask you a question. I told you about Opus, the organization I'm in. Would that be an organization you might be interested in? And they're always looking for people. And the reason I'm thinking of you is you were a MUFON field, or still are, you still are a
Yeah,
MUFON field
I'm still a field
investigator.
investigator. Yeah.
Okay, and you've had some really strange experiences, and you can listen to people very non-judgmentally, and that's what that's what Opus. That's kind of what I do as a member of Opus. And then, if somebody's been traumatized, we have a list of providers that we could refer them to. Would you be interested in getting involved in? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have Gwen Farrell, that's why I asked you about Gwen. I'm
Mm.
going to have her listen to this podcast, and then she might be in contact with you. So I can't promise anything, but you just strike me as somebody who would be very beneficial to Opus. And I really like your cat too. And
Thank
I'm
you.
not sure, I'm not sure what that means anyway. So Dan,
Sophie's sweetheart.
thank,
But yeah, no, I would absolutely love that. Please give me whatever contact information you need
okay,
from me. Just forward
okay,
that over. And yeah, because yeah, I would absolutely love to be a part of that because that is like my main motivator is helping people
yeah.
our
And
experience.
that's what it's all about. That's
Hmm.
what it's all about. Well,
Yeah.
Dan, thank you very much for coming on our podcast. And I will, once we get this, we do minimal editing. If you have any graphics that you want put in we have a YouTube channel, and we have kind of a I'm not sure how to describe it. Our beginning page for each episode. If there's any kind of graphics that you want included in that, just send that to me and I'll pass it on to the person who does the editing. And thank you very
Yeah, well, thank
much.
you. No, I really appreciate it. And was it Dan or Daniel? Do you prefer?
You know, I used to work in corrections in another life. I used to work for the Idaho Department of Corrections. So I've been called everything Dan or Daniel, pretty good because I've been called much worse. So it does, I'm okay with any of that stuff.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much, Shannon, for having me on. I really appreciate it. If you ever want me back, go into more details about things, feel free to let me know.
And if you could suggest any other guests, including, I would be interested in talking to that person who worked for the John Mack Foundation. I think you mentioned somebody like that. Maybe you
Yeah.
could shoot
So
me her
yeah,
name.
Marina Smirnova, she's yeah, so I can totally forward you the information. We've had her on our show twice. She actually came to visit Boise. I actually got to meet her in person. Amazing, amazing woman. But
Cool.
yeah, she didn't directly work with the institution itself, but what she did is she studied John Mack a lot. And then she's also it was last year she was able to submit a 20th anniversary honoring of John Mack. Um, in his name for the she was able to get it published academically, the paper.
Mhm.
So yeah, I will forward your information over, and I'm sure she would love to come on your show.
John Mack is someone we lost much too soon, I
Yes,
think. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
him and
Okay.
McKenna and a bunch of other people, but really
Yeah.
amazing, an amazing soul for helping experiencers and people that they didn't feel like they were crazy. But yeah, again, thank you, Daniel, so much for having me on the show.
Oh,
I'll
thank you.
be in contact with you moving forward.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dan. Take care.
Thank you, Jack.